Please don't try what you're about to see at home.
We're what you call experts. Yeah. Well, there's your problem.
In this special series of MythBusters,
Almost too exciting.
the Dream Team tackles their dream themes.
It's scientific.
Testing myths about everything from electricity to pressure and gravity.
This one hurt a bit.
Shaking down the science of shockwaves, velocity, and impact. With crazy chemistry,
Oh my goodness.
far-out physics,
Fun for the whole family.
and insane explosions.
Everybody okay?
Life's burning questions answered. On MythBusters, there's your problem. This episode, the MythBusters take to the air with 3 myths about helicopters, featuring unbalanced rotor blades and unlucky scuba divers. Then they chomp down to a simpler flight mode with 3 myths about the science of gliding, including a glider made of concrete.
3, 2, 1, go.
First, can you hang off a moving chopper's landing skid and climb aboard the cabin just like the movies?
That's a great myth, but nobody's gonna let us hang from a real helicopter.
You're right, and that is why we're gonna build our own helicopter.
Oh, you mean like make a mock-up helicopter with skids and everything, and then put a fan in front of it that blows 80-mile-an-hour winds, just like cruising speed of a real helicopter.
It's like you're reading my mind. And then what we'll do is we'll measure the downdraft created by a helicopter, and that'll transfer into a weight that we'll wear while we're experimenting.
Perfect.
Helicopters. Since they first took to the skies back in the 1940s, their complex design has raised a cloud of physics conundrums. To test this myth, the guys need to focus firstly on the downdraft created by a helicopter's horizontal rotors. Downdraft creates lift for the chopper, but could spell doom for the myth.
That might be a lot of air pressure that could potentially knock you off. So we need to figure out a way to measure that downforce. So what I have here is Grant's head and shoulders. This is gonna give us the same surface area as somebody holding on to the helicopter skids. Now, I've attached Grant to the scale, so that way if there's any change in the downforce, we'll be able to measure it. Works.
Now, obviously, the most direct way to test this myth would be to try to hang from a helicopter while it's flying. But unfortunately, the insurers tell us it's too dangerous. But don't worry, because we have a cunning plan which still involves a real helicopter. And we've enlisted the help of Making Air Helicopters to test this myth.
So they're about to find out how much downdraft there is by hovering directly overhead the head.
Look at that. It's increasing to 500 or now 700 as it's getting away from the center of the helicopter.
Right.
When Grant's head on a scale is near the outer circumference of the rotor blades,
Now it's at 900.
the downdraft peaks at almost a kilo. But the myth is all about climbing up onto the skids.
We want the skid to be just above scale.
Bring him in a little closer.
And in close, the downforce is surprisingly small.
Yeah, look at that. It goes down to about 50 grams.
Really?
So it's roughly around 50 to 80 grams when he's just hovering.
Which is fairly insignificant. And even a sudden takeoff doesn't make much difference.
So it got up to a little over 100 grams on that one.
100 grams? Nothing. You're close, way more than 100 grams.
So we just finished testing the downforce of the helicopter, and the results were very consistent. We had him hover above our scale. As he came down, the weight increased. However, it only got to 50 grams, which is nothing. I mean, your clothes weigh more than that. And at one point, we had him punch it as if he was taking off, and it peaked at about 130 grams, which is still not that much weight. So it looks like the downforce of the helicopter really isn't gonna affect your ability to hang on to the skid.
So, somewhat unexpectedly, the team can ignore the downdraft from the chopper blades and go to work at the next location.
Best commute ever.
No signs prohibiting heavy machinery or MythBusters. Perfect. Because at the pool, they've got everything they need, including a cool chopper mock-up Jesse knocked up at the shop.
That's cool!
We got a helicopter!
That is awesome!
That's perfect.
All right, so it may not be a real helicopter, and a lot of it is made from plywood, but I'd have to say it's a pretty darn good helicopter for the amount of time I had.
Where's Rick and TC, man?
Most importantly, everything is to spec. These struts are 45 degrees, and the skids are 3-inch diameter tubing, just like a real helicopter.
Now, how many times have you watched an action film, somebody jump onto a helicopter and climb up as it's taking off? Now, we get to try it. I mean, we're living out our action hero fantasies.
The idea is that we will be suspended over a pool. Buster PI ready for takeoff. That way, if we fall, we'll just fall in the pool. We have liftoff. We have liftoff here. The goal is to hang on to the skid, pull yourself up and over and into the cockpit to safety. Oh, look, turbulence. Hang on, everybody, hang on.
But a set of realistic skids on a fake chopper is not the only obstacle the guys will encounter on their climb to safety.
Based on our test with the real helicopter, we know that the downward force at hover is minimal. But let's face it, this is an action movie. They have to fly away. How do you simulate flight at a swimming pool? With this. This is a 6-foot diameter fan blade connected to a 350 horsepower big block engine. It's capable of generating wind speeds of up to 95 miles per hour. That's enough to simulate the cruising speed of our helicopter and more than enough to test this myth. That's like an instant hurricane.
It might blow my clothes off.
Maybe you should wear 2 pairs.
Ladies, get ready.
We have liftoff here.
All right, so this is what I think should happen, guys. We hang on, but we can't start doing any climbing until we actually hit the airstream.
Well, then the goal here is to climb up onto the skid, get yourself safely inside the helicopter without falling into the water.
All right, so who goes first?
Not it.
Not it.
I guess I'll go first.
Don't tell her about the piranhas.
I think I'm gonna do just fine. I got a good technique, and it's gonna get me up and over. It's just those winds that I'm quite curious about.
Yep, and it's those 80-mile-an-hour winds simulating a helicopter's cruising speed and the accurate undercarriage and skid structure that gives this test the seal of authenticity. But none of that stops stunt girl Jessie. She was slick, quick, and her technique looked like it was straight out of a movie script.
Nice job! You're like a little monkey.
Good one.
Okay, so those winds are pretty intense. I mean, look, it unfolded my pant leg.
Yeah, your shirt almost got blown.
We weren't kidding when we were talking about blowing our clothes off. This is pretty large tubing, so if you have little hands, it's gonna be difficult to hang on to, because I could feel myself starting to kind of slide off. And then, once you got into the wind, I was like, the winds are insane. My ponytail's sideways, my pant leg has come undone, my shirt almost flew off. And then when standing up on the skid, it's a little bit more difficult than you thought it would be, because you do have those pressing winds, but once you're in, you're safe.
The key to Jessie's success was speed. And if you throw in the fact that this test is all about strength to body weight ratio, being a lot lighter, she's got a big advantage over the guys. So, will they be able to match her?
All right, you ready?
That was nuts. I was hanging onto the skid, and as I was going out, I was like, yeah, this is fine. And then all of a sudden, I hit that wind, and I was like, I'm not gonna make it. I'm gonna fall into the water. That was crazy.
Crazy? Sure, but also very achievable. And with Grant scrambling to safety, with just a wardrobe malfunction to worry about,
Get to the chopper, Grant!
the myth and the boys' silver screen dreams are looking good.
Man, he wanted to live!
I'm alive! I made it to the chopper!
You see his shirt come up? Damn, thank God his pants didn't come off.
Take that, action heroes.
That was such a fun test, and it's possible to climb into a helicopter as it's taking off.
Yeah, but it's definitely not as easy as it looks in the action movies.
I think we did pretty good for a couple of average Joes.
Next, can a firefighting helicopter suck up a scuba diver?
Well, the story goes that a scuba diver was found in a tree in the middle of a charred forest about 50 miles inland. And the speculation was that the scuba diver was scooped up by one of those firefighting helicopters or airplanes and dumped in the forest. They have these things called Erickson sky cranes. They're huge helicopters. They have a tank, and they have a hose coming down out of the tank. There's a pump on the end of the hose. What's inside these pumps, these things that they have on the end of the helicopters, is actually just a propeller blade. It's not that unlike what's on the end of an outboard. So let's get an outboard and reorient it. We do a little welding. We're there.
To be right on spec with a firefighting helicopter's pulling power, this outboard's got to have some serious mechanical muscle.
225 horsepower is a lot of horsepower. Turning a 13 or 14-inch propeller. Yeah, that's a lot of horsepower.
Look, he giggles like a schoolgirl. It's so cute.
The 225 engine will mean they can run it at half throttle and still get a horsepower range that's well above what the Myth involves.
Can I just take this hose?
But that's not all they need.
Looking for a funnel, which is kind of hard to make, actually, and they just have stuff like that here.
Over here, guys. But I can see Jamie, oh, well, maybe if we cut it down on the lathe and then, cast it and mold it in a different material and then sent it away to be replicated by some military organization, it'd be pretty simple. One of his ridiculous solutions. Can't believe that guy.
Jamie's methodical attention to detail pays off.
Hey, Adam, did you hear the guy tell us what this was for?
What was it for?
It was like fecal matter.
And soon enough, he finds the right funnel.
But it is separable from the other machinery, and I figure, like, it didn't end up about there.
Looks like I have to eat my words. I'm sorry, Jamie.
Due to its size and weight, the plan is to mount the entire rig on a forklift, so it can still be portable. The outboard alone weighs 500 pounds. Once that's in position,
Perfect.
a steel frame for the outboard is welded into place.
Go for it.
Then the original drive shaft is removed from the outboard.
There we go.
For the scuba diver pump, they'll have to build a new and much longer drive shaft. Because it'll be spinning at high RPM, the shaft must be accurately machined on a lathe.
A sealed U-joint is really quite a beautiful thing.
The propeller is cut down and carefully balanced to avoid vibrations.
We're mounting the propeller the wrong way around.
That's so that rather than pushing the water down, it'll be sucked up towards the outboard. To control the water flow, the shaft must be encased in a heavy steel pipe. And Adam describes in detail what will happen to the pumped water.
Shoot up that way. Like that. Just a godly torrent of water.
That torrent will be vented away from the motor by angling the pipe.
This thing, if it works well, is going to launch something like a Volkswagen out the end of that tube every few seconds.
Then the funnel is cut down and a guard is attached to replicate the real thing. Mounted on a forklift and weighing close to 1,000 pounds,
It's like a pageant for my baby.
the Scuba sucking pump is moved into position for its maiden voyage. And Buster's ready and waiting at the pool with his scuba suit, yet again taking one for the team. Also joining the crew is outboard motor expert Jay. He'll ensure the engine doesn't burn out. The pump is lowered into position for its test run. The rig works and Adam's thrilled. But the pump must measure up to the heli tanker's pulling power of 3,000 gallons of water per minute by filling this 2,000-gallon tank in 45 seconds.
Ready? Go for it.
The Scuba pump is filling the tank fast, but the effort of pushing the water up the extra 15 feet is too much for the outboard.
She died.
So where were we?
That was 18 seconds. It got halfway there. That's way ahead of 3,000 gallons per minute. would totally beat 3,000 gallons a minute. Who's gonna do it in like 30 seconds?
All
right.
Working?
Yeah,
I think that's good. Ooh, God, this is good feeling.
So now we know our pump is as strong as the firefighting Erickson air crane. But can either of them suck a scuba diver out of the water and hold him long enough to get to a forest fire? Let's find out. With the pump at full throttle, Adam pushes Buster toward the intake funnel. But despite the on-point suction specs, there's just not enough pulling power.
I got him right up under that thing, under its full pressure. He, like, lazily delayed a little bit and then sunk right back down. There was just not enough suction to hold him. I mean, his tank was in the way, everything was in the way.
That was a lot of water coming out the other end, though.
And I have to tell you, if you were a diver and you heard that sound,
You'd go in the other direction.
I think you'd go in the other direction, because I can hear it very clearly under there, and it sounds like a bad thing.
But the MythBusters are determined to see Buster firmly attached to that pump. The funnel and guard are removed from the pipe, and Buster is stripped of his tank.
So we're pulling off the cowling, and we're gonna try him right on the end of the pipe. That's the worst case scenario. They don't run those machines like that, but that's what we're gonna try and see if there's enough suction at all.
It's got him. Buster is held fast. He's up, but not away. As soon as Buster breaks the surface, the pump sucks air and revs dangerously close to burnout.
Was there a failure of the machine?
Negative. I was stopping it from over-revving.
Without the pressure of the water, the pump's motor would over-rev and disintegrate. But an exploding outboard holds no fear for the MythBusters. They want to try again. Adam really gives Buster a shove. The pump sucks, but only till the battered dummy breaks the surface.
That is so busted.
It pulled him up out of the water a little bit.
A little bit short of a forest fire. Well, that's gotta suck. I have to say the amount of suction under the pool was actually pretty impressive. I'm looking up in the mouth of this just like satanic swirling thing of death, and I just kind of got him near it, and he went like this. I mean, it was just like a, magnet. It was incredible. There's no way that suction's gonna carry him above the water. It's gonna suck onto him under the water, but once it leaves, that pump needs to be primed the whole time with water, and he'll cavitate it, and he'll just drop off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think this ends the debate once and for all. This one's busted.
Okay.
Next, can a regular postage stamp send a helicopter into a serious spin? This one's going to call for a whole team of experts and the supervision of the Oakland Police Department.
So, Rick, have you ever heard the myth that a postage stamp is enough to unbalance a helicopter, potentially crash it?
I have not heard that myth. I do know that the blade system is very sensitive to items on the rotors, which can include balloons, dust, paint. So it can affect the flight characteristics of the aircraft.
If mere dust can unbalance this chopper, then a postage stamp might have an effect after all. To put this to the test, flight engineer Chad has rigged a series of sensors that can detect the tiniest changes in the balance of the blades.
And what are the sensors telling you?
Okay, well, this up here is called a velocimeter.
Uh-huh.
It's in a lateral position, so it's going to measure vibrations laterally. If the main rotor mass is doing this, it's going to feel this lateral vibration.
And that's because of some imbalance in the blades.
Correct.
To start, the team needs to get a stamp-free baseline. Pilot Rick lifts the chopper into a hover, then spins her around. All the while, flight engineer Chad's computer is analyzing exactly how balanced the blades are without the stamp. So with the chopper calibrated, let's send for the stamp.
What we're gonna do is take a postage stamp and put it on the rotor blade and see if that is enough to send it out of balance and possibly cause a catastrophic crash.
If pilot Rick or the velocimeter picks up too much balance differentiation, for safety reasons, they'll abort the test immediately. Carrie measures out the postage stamp.
Yeah, this is the 45-cent stamp.
We've got 0.15 grams.
And now the tiny weight of a single postage stamp is stuck onto the precisely balanced rotor blade. But is it enough to render them unstable?
I mean, if you think about it, this helicopter costs $1.3 million, and they're willing for us to go mess around with it. If they're not worried about it, I don't think anything's gonna go wrong.
The game's not over. They're not up in the air yet.
True.
The pressure's on pilot Rick. With $1 million chopper in his hands, one false move could break the MythBusters budget. But with the heli hovering happily, this myth is sinking fast.
I think we might be busted here.
So, did the stamp make any difference at all?
So, Chad, what did the computer come up with?
Well, with our first flight, without the postage stamp applied,
Yeah.
with my measurements, our hover lateral, which is the side-to-side motion, measured a 0.173 inches per second, or IPS.
So that's no stamp.
That is no stamp.
Okay.
Okay? With the application of the stamp, hover lateral was a 0.174. So it only changed 1/1000th of an IPS, which is actually minuscule. Because right now, I would let this helicopter go with no problem at 0.174.
All right, thanks.
The stamp did next to nothing. It's looking like this myth should be returned to sender. But the team does want to try one last thing.
Now, for those of you out there who are helicopter enthusiasts, I know you've been thinking all through the show, they're only concentrating on the main rotor. What about the tail boom? Well, today, we're gonna try the tail boom too.
It's the twist in the tail. One stamp on the main rotor, and now one on the back one too. And there's no hover test for this one. Instead, the team is going for broke.
Are we nuts? We got stamps on the top rotor and the tail rotor.
Well, here's the thing. If we're wrong about this, we're gonna have a really bad day.
But with the first stamp having such an unimpressionable result on the blade, the team has been cleared for takeoff with a second stamp.
Argus 1, roger, clear for takeoff on the go.
They're up and away, and it's so far so good. Even with stamps on the main rotor and the tail boom, the chopper's flying straight as an arrow.
This is so cool. Gee, it feels like those postage stamps are really helping the flight.
Carrie stays nervous, but this bird ain't gonna fall out of the sky.
Wait, are we going back? Yeah. Open tower. I'm not ready to go back.
Oh, he's gonna go for the slide right in. That is how you park it.
Touchdown, and time for the team to stamp their authority on this myth.
Okay, Rick, well, we've been out in your helicopter today. We've run a bunch of tests. Postage stamp on a helicopter blade. What do you think?
It had no effect. I felt no appreciable difference.
Definitely busted.
Definitely busted.
Now, from a sophisticated flying system to the simplest of all. Strap in for 3 myths about gliding, including using plywood and a helium raft. First, can you conquer the skies with this heavyweight flyer?
Concrete glider.
The classic engineering school challenge, you cannot make a glider out of concrete.
That's it. Somehow we've got to build a glider out of concrete.
Gliding flight, that effortless sail through the sky, allows objects heavier than air to fly without the use of thrust from an engine. But how are the boys going to achieve this with concrete?
The single biggest problem with the concrete glider is the concrete. But you can make a thin sheet of it, push it through with your finger, and it'll crack. So we're going to need to look at ways to strengthen the concrete.
Jamie starts his build by using a toy model glider kit as a mold for creating his airplane. Normally, concrete is mixed with a heavy aggregate of sand and gravel. But Jamie's lightened the load by carefully mixing cement, sand, and fiberglass into paper-thin wing sections, along with cable reinforcement for that all-important additional strength. Meanwhile, Adam's design is also taking flight.
Well, now I gotta draw out the pattern on this foam, and then I gotta start like sanding and sculpting it.
With the foam mold ready to go, Adam lays out carbon fiber mesh for his glider's structure and stability. And then he casts his lightweight concrete mix onto the foam mold. With Jamie's paper-thin concrete wings now dry,
That's got to be about the thinnest piece of concrete you ever saw.
he carefully adds a curve to his wing to achieve greater lift. And then uses his ultra-light fishing line to add some tension to his ultra-fragile glider. Adam's glider is anything but lightweight.
This thing weighs a ton.
In order for a glider to fly, it must generate enough lift to oppose its weight. Adam's design offers stability, but will it generate enough lift to overcome its substantial weight? And for Jamie, a super lightweight was the key to his design. But will it hold together in flight?
In this corner, weighing in at...
On the scales, Jamie's featherweight design comes in at just over 600 grams.
This is basically concrete with a few pieces of string, and I think it's a fantastic attempt at foiling the myth that you can't make a glider out of concrete.
Adam is next, and with over 2 kilos of concrete glider, he's definitely in the heavyweight division. To measure their glider's lift-to-weight ratio, they set up a wind tunnel to weigh the glider in front of the fan. Any lift their glider achieves will result in a weight reduction.
Yeah, I'm seeing, on average, probably about, just about a max of 200 grams of lift there.
By my best guess, my glider was receiving about 38% of its total weight in lift.
38% is impressive. With a decent launch speed, that will increase, and it may just be enough. Next up is Adam's concrete glider.
Well, it's nice that I can feel some lift, but this thing is heavy.
His lift-to-weight ratio is well down on Jamie's. It's only generating half as much lift.
Yeah, it spikes up to 350.
My glider did not seem to perform as well as Jamie's, actually about half as well.
So now there's just a few pre-flight tweaks and trims before we see if these concrete creations can fly.
It turns out that it's not just about reducing all the weight possible from this, because if it's super light but balanced incorrectly, it's still just a stone.
To get the balance right, Adam adds a gondola. The weight beneath the wing can be adjusted to move the center of gravity. Plus, it should stabilize the glider in flight. Jamie has also been busy shifting his glider's center of gravity further forward.
It looks stupid, but we don't care about that right now. It's a concrete airplane. What are you going to do?
To generate the velocity needed for flight, Adam is rigging up his own aero tow in the form of a zip line, tow line, and quick release.
That mark is where the pin gets pulled out and my glider starts flying on its own.
Adam then optimistically marks out a target distance of 50 feet.
That's how far I want to travel.
A glider's performance is measured by its glide ratio, how much horizontal distance it can travel compared to its altitude drop.
Oh, buddy.
Okay.
And whoever achieves the longest relative flight will be crowned winner.
3, 2, 1, go.
Well, the launch was successful, and Adam's concrete glider has survived relatively intact. But how far did it glide?
My glider released from its catch off of its guideline at about 9 feet off the ground. It then flew close to 34 feet before hitting the ground. Now, 4 times 9 is 36, so 34 feet means I came devilishly close to a 4-to-1 glide ratio. I could not be more pleased with these results. It flew very stably. That is really clear. I only had one chance to trim this thing so that it would fly straight, and it did. That is, I feel really, really good.
With a spring in his step, Adam measures out the target Jamie needs to exceed to succeed.
We know that Jamie's 28 feet off the ground, so if he wants to hit a 4-to-1 glide ratio, he's got to get his plane to hit the ground at 112 feet.
Jamie opts for a manual launch from the stairwell.
Okay. In 3, 2, 1. Well, there you go.
Jamie's wilting bird took flight and then took a nosedive. Yep, his concrete glider was all concrete and no glide.
Congratulations, you won.
Jamie's 1-to-1 glide ratio was not even close to matching Adam's soaring achievement of 4-to-1. But what about the myth? Did the guys prove anything about the concept of a concrete glider?
We did prove that it can be done.
I'd call it plausible, but not recommended.
Yeah, you know, the big thing for me is that you only got one shot at it. You know, it's brittle. If you crash with the things, it's over. So we're plausible.
Plausible.
But not recommended.
Exactly.
Next, can plywood glide you to safety?
Plywood builder. Walk me through this one.
Apparently, a construction worker up on the top of a building was holding on to a 4x8 sheet of plywood on a windy day, and the wind picks him up off the top of the building over the edge. Not only does he manage to hold on to the plywood, but he controls it well enough to be able to land several floors below in the building unharmed.
Cool flying myth.
According to the myth, the builder was holding a sheet of 5-ply when he took his unscheduled flight. That's made up of 5 thin sheets of timber compressed together. As well as testing the regular sheet, Adam and Jamie will use the 5 individual sheets to design their own flying rigs from plywood. For his plywood glider, Adam is going for a pentagonal design with a scoop, similar to a parachute. He calculates the angles, measures up the sheets, and then lays them out for a little glue and a little jig to press them together. It's no surprise that Jamie has gone for a simpler wing design to maximize his surface area, while not compromising strength. He's placing the 5 sheets for his wing on a cradle made from 2x4s. Narrow strips of ply are used as strengtheners.
Yeah, charm.
Okay, now we go out and bring the pipe in.
And to achieve a curve in his wing, weights are gently placed in the center of the plywood sheets.
There we go.
Cool.
We're gonna put a diagonal on this that'll torque this thing a little bit and create a propeller shape, which gives us the spin, and the spin gives us the lift, which slows us down.
And once the glue is dry...
Jamie, this looks great, man. It looks like it held its curve quite nicely. It was pretty darn rigid.
Yeah, it actually is holding its shape quite nicely.
It racks like a monster.
Which is what we want.
Twisting the plywood wing will turn it into a spinning propeller. This will further slow its descent, in theory.
Okay, now let it go. That's more like it.
Yeah, that looks a lot better.
Adam's plywood sheets are dry and ready to be pulled together to form the parachute shape.
Hey, Jamie. I'm gonna need some help with this.
You know, be careful. In a blink, you're gonna end up with a split right along that line.
While using the 5 single sheets of ply should get the most air resistance for their rigs, this larger surface area isn't quite as efficient for portability.
This side.
Wait, you're caught. You're snap.
Okay.
I want one of these for myself.
With a lot more room to move, the old control tower will be the ideal place to launch Buster, with nothing but a sheet of ply to see if he can glide safely to the ground, just like the mythical builder. The tests will take place in front of a scale ruler. A computer attached to the high-speed camera will then determine the exact drop rates. And our fall guy here has a few modifications.
He's a very relaxed dude.
He doesn't know what's about to happen to him.
Human transport.
They've put a sensor in his head that'll show them whether the fall is survivable.
Okay, be careful with this guy now.
He has a brain.
Buster will be raised 60 feet up on the crane and then dropped on cue via a cable quick release.
Once you get up in position, push the blue button and pull out the safety pin.
Okay.
Oh man, Buster is toast.
So they can work out if the plywood rigs do slow him down, Buster's first control drop will be totally unassisted and very painful.
3, 2, 1, go.
I was laying on the ground when he hit, and I felt the ground move a little bit.
I never get tired of doing that.
The high-speed camera reveals Buster is traveling between 34 and 35 miles an hour when he hits the ground.
What's the verdict, Christine?
I think he's dead.
That's a shocker.
Sorry, Buster, in goes another sensor, and here comes another drop.
Are you ready for a piece of plywood? Oh, I can tell you're feeling it. Oh, he's ready.
To play our flying builder, Buster's hands have been replaced with clamps for a good grip on his ply.
He's gonna die. No, but it's gonna look great.
We're locked and loaded, over.
Remember, in the myth, the falling builder is able to glide gracefully back inside the building, totally unharmed.
Go. Buster was such a good dummy.
Rather than slowing him down, the plywood increases Buster's velocity to over 36 miles per hour. And his body snaps the 5-ply sheet in half. Which means one thing.
This one's busted.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. He went straight down. There was no deflection off to the side or anything, and he's done for.
Let's go get our solutions. Let's go try my wooden parachute.
Okay.
Will the additional surface area from the 5 component layers make Buster's glide to the ground any safer?
What a fat lot of good that did.
And that's why they don't make parachutes out of wood.
Oh well, the best laid plans. It was a nice idea.
Nice try.
Jamie is quietly confident his rig will do the job.
4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Woo! Do you feel better now?
I do. I feel a lot better.
So, Adam, what do you think? Did he go slower at all? At least he didn't flip over again until the right at the last minute.
It didn't spin at all, and then he went totally sideways and landed on its edge, and he just collapsed with it. It was a horror show. And unfortunately, he was off-center, and the high-speed camera caught none of it.
Bummer.
Poor guy.
In all 3 drops, the plywood did nothing to slow Buster's descent. But now, Adam's body is going on the line. The boys rig up a zip line to see if they can get any control out of the ply while in flight.
It is always a strange thing to throw yourself out over the edge of a 60-foot drop. Your body resists it.
Sorry, Adam. Flying with a piece of ply is the only way to find out if you can steer ply in flight, like the myth suggests.
We have liftoff.
I fart on you! Forget about controlling this thing. There's no control. I mean, I tried pushing my head up against it. At the peak, I could not get it. It's just like all over the place.
Well, that's the most interesting thing about this whole thing so far. I mean, we've tested everything we could.
What was our actual data?
What really surprised me was that the plywood was no use at all. In fact, it broke over Buster's back upon impact. And our rigs didn't do anything at all. It didn't help either.
From a controllability standpoint and from a velocity hitting the ground standpoint, this is one of those myths that's just unequivocally busted.
Yeah, absolutely. Myth busted.
Okay, how about something a little lighter? Can you take flight on a helium-filled raft?
Adam, what myth do we have this time?
Well, this one is pretty darn simple. It comes right off the MythBuster fan site. And it is simply that if you fill a raft with helium, that you could actually fly on that raft.
Well, on the face of it, I'm not so sure about this one, but there's only one way to find out.
Let's start with a look at helium. It weighs just 0.17 grams per liter. By contrast, nitrogen, which makes up about 80% of the air we breathe, is 10 times heavier. The more helium you have, the more air it displaces, and the greater the lift. But just how much helium do you need to get your average MythBuster airborne?
Okay, so I've run the math on the lifting power of helium. It takes almost 16 cubic feet of helium just to lift 1 pound. That means for you or me, 200 pounds plus a raft, let's say it weighs 100 pounds, that's 300 pounds of lift, we need just under 5,000 cubic feet of helium to do that.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Sure is. Made from polytubing, the plan for this double-decker raft will be to roll out a bottom deck of 25 pontoons. Then, the top layer is rolled out crosswise. Lines of packing tape at 10-foot intervals will stitch the pontoons together. Each tube will then be filled with helium and sealed with an airtight valve.
Remember, take it easy. No mistakes.
But with only inflatable tubes to offer structural support, can these PVC pipes really become a giant life raft of plastic fantastic? To find out, they've relocated to a hangar to put their helium-filled flying machine together.
So those rolls of plastic that you saw, there's 60 of them. And they're 60 feet long and 3 feet wide. We're gonna lay them out here on a 60 by 75 foot square. And as we roll them out, we're gonna stitch them together into a raft.
With tape.
With packaging tape.
It sounds as far-fetched as a concrete glider. But hey, who are we to be skeptical of a raft filled with helium and held together with packing tape?
So it begins.
Precision is going to be the key to this test. If there's any tube that's not correctly aligned or any tie left undone, the whole raft could be ruined, and the myth will be punctured.
This is nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the term painstaking is really adequate. Several hours and 6 sore knees later, the layout is finally complete.
Now, this is the highest potential for total failure I think that we've ever achieved on the show.
Highest?
Yeah, without a doubt.
This net is the last thing that we've got to do. If we can achieve a little tension on it, it's going to really hold all these things together, and we might get a chance to fly.
36 cylinders of helium are pumped into the plastic tubing.
I'm not seeing or hearing any leaks.
And as those massive pontoons fill, each one generates 5 pounds of lift.
Good.
Before long, the raft is starting to rise.
This thing is effectively neutrally buoyant right now, and we have plenty to lift me.
The MythBusters can boast a whole raft of achievements, and successfully gliding on a helium-filled raft might soon make the list.
The fact that we've got it up and it's buoyant, very exciting. I really just want to get on there now and be able to relax on my flying raft. Good, good. Okay, lower.
With Adam in position on the mattress, Carrie starts dumping the ballast. But straight away, there's a problem.
You better cut the other side a little bit.
Without the ballast, one side of the raft suddenly takes to the skies, and Adam begins to slip off his mattress.
Okay, stop. Don't cut anymore.
Okay. Whoa. Whoa.
The team stops cutting the ballast, but the damage is done, as Adam has more slide than glide.
Wait a second.
Without any support structure, the flimsy pontoons can't cope. On a build this big, there was always the chance that something would slip through the cracks. Never thought it would be Adam, though.
Hey, Adam?
Yeah.
This isn't working.
No, it seems to have failed utterly.
You've, like, slipped right through to the bottom side.
Yeah, I feel like something that got cut out of the Matrix here.
Are you all right?
I'm fine. I'm upside down, and I'm in a net, and I'm below the biggest thing ever built out of helium and balloons, but I'm fine.
With the raft coming apart at the seams, there's just no way the team can reset to try again.
That's good. Stop.
All that work.
Look at this. It's a cathedral of failure.
Not really, Adam. We've learned that any raft able to fly will be unfeasibly large and far too flimsy to take passengers.
Oh my God, we might need to open a door.
But I'm calling this one busted. I know we're not supposed to bust them on site. We're supposed to wait for the blueprint table, but I don't want to go back there. I just want to take the sweatsuit off and call it done and busted. Yeah, busted. Yeah, busted.
Busted.
Busted. Busted. Thank you. I was waiting for you to say it. Okay.
Let's clean it up.